It's the hog style.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Hog Style. Sean Conti here. I'm joined by Steve Thomas.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
Mr. Alex Zeese.
Hey.
And Robbie Duncan.
How's it going?
And we are so very pleased to welcome back a good friend of the show, longtime beat reporter, columnist, podcaster, DC tour guide, Mr. Rick Snider. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Hey, man, the junkies aren't on this slate. Who am I on with again?
Is that
You're on with the junkies wannabe.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Well, they're getting old, so, might be the next wave.
Yeah. Well,
I
yeah.
don't want to get into the whole DC radio scene, what's going on there, because it's starting to look scary for those guys with CBS selling, but I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, no, true story. Well, listen, Rick, you're one of our first repeat guests, so we want to say up front, thank you for being so good to the show. We love talking to you on Twitter and doing the show, so thank you so much again.
And we're sorry for all the talking to you on Twitter.
We'll shut up one of these days.
You do a good job of promoting the show by retweeting every 3 seconds. So, do a lot of hits.
You can blame me for that because I have it open at work, and every time I think about it, I go, I'll retweet this again until somebody tells me to shut up and stop, basically.
Hey, that's how it works.
All right, Rick, the reason why you're on here again is the conversation started about the stadium, and we had an interesting Twitter conversation about whether the stadium was going to end up in D.C., in Maryland, and Virginia, and there's a whole gamut of opinions, and I know you have some a fairly strong belief that it's D.C. versus Maryland. So, if you don't mind, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you think the stadium project stands?
I think in the very end, it's going to stay in Maryland and be down by the Wilson Bridge, what they call the Gaylord Complex now.
Right.
It's still in PG County where it is now. Maryland Stadium Authority, is willing to go strong at this. I mean, everybody says that, but Maryland put up some money last time too, so they've got a track record of getting that stadium done. DC, the RFK site is still very possible.
Sure.
I just don't see Virginia at all. Just don't see it at all. How are you going to get a moat out in Loudoun County? Okay, that's the first thought. I mean, are there any rivers out there? I mean, how much water takes a moat? That's got to be expensive. So
that's what I'm saying.
Then again, if you put that moat on the Anacostia River, or at the Gaylord, which is down the stream from the sewage treatment plant, I don't know how this moat thing is going to work. I would put odds against that part happening, but
right.
I do think DC has a chance. But here's the bottom line, and it came out today. The Washington Business Journal did a really nice piece about this, about why is there a mode, why is the stadium configured the way it is. Basically, so to get more, it's basically to get more premium seats. Is how they designed it, but they estimate that it'll cost more than $2 billion.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. DC doesn't have that kind of money. Obviously you can't pay for it all, but Snider's going to be looking for somebody to pay a lion's share of it. And as a Maryland taxpayer, I'll fire any politician that spends $2 billion on a stadium.
Hey, amen to that.
They're more likely to do it. There's a lot of other problems with the DC site, including citizen opposition.
Right.
But, and they recently came out with 6 different scenarios for that site. One of them involved the Redskins Stadium. One of them involved a new arena to replace Verizon Center, which really surprised me on that one.
Right.
That part of town desperately needs something. I know they're going to make a real move at it, but it is federal parkland that's leased to the city, and only through 2037, so you have to negotiate that too.
Right.
I think, and when it all comes down to it, I would expect Maryland to still have a team.
Now, I have I'm very familiar with the designs because I live very close to RFK right now, so I've been paying attention to it. And I really do like some of the designs. The whole putting a basketball, hockey stadium there makes no sense to me. The Verizon Center's fine. We can just renovate it when we need to, I hope, because that's really made Chinatown what Chinatown is. But my big thing when I look at this whole Gaylord location, you're talking not a long walk from any metro station. You're talking, what, 8-10 miles at least from public transit at that point.
Okay, but when you drive over the Wilson Bridge, what do you see in the middle left side? A big open gap.
That's
Why?
true.
That's where they plan to put the metro across. That's always been there. That's why you have the big gap. That's even without the stadium, there's always been a plan to run it from Eisenhower Avenue, which is the blue line, and run it down the Wilson Bridge into Maryland. The stadium would accelerate that, certainly, because without you have to have a metro stop for this to work.
Right, that's my thing.
Yeah, there's no other way around that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I knew Loudoun County is getting metro out to that area in about the next 5 years, so it'll be out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like Pontiac, Michigan. I mean, America is moving back into its cities, and it's not going out in the suburbs like the old days. That's a proven trend around the nation.
Right.
And you have to think that this is 2027 to 2060. The next generation. It's only going to be more bigger urban centers,
mm-hmm.
and not something out in Mars.
Right, and you got to appeal to the next generation of fans who, people my age in our 30s and our 20s, we're not going farther out. We're coming back.
Yeah.
I can't see for so many reasons why it would be so far out, including gas prices and so many other things that we're looking at. So I don't see that happening. So D.C., Maryland, it could probably go either way. The decision's several years away,
right,
from happening. But not that many, it's only 11 years till the lease runs out. You probably need a good 5. Jack Kent Cooke took 9 years to get to FedEx.
Sure.
And that was his fourth choice in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the price tag is going to really scare people. And what really annoys me about this playhouse that they're going to build is it's not going to be for you. It's going to be for rich people. I'm not sure a rich person. I don't know.
No.
It's not going to be for average fans. They will be priced out of the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way they'll be able to go to games consistently, and that's a real shame. But everything in D.C. is so much of what we're seeing built around the city is geared toward new wealth coming in.
Sure.
The Europeans are really taking a big hold in the real estate, so are some of the Asian communities, and so this would play into that.
Mm.
Now, Rick, my two thoughts I had on it, and I was the one that was tweeting you about Virginia. Number one, I've always been concerned about the interference of the federal government and the land use inside D.C., which is why I thought that D.C. seemed unlikely. Number one, and number two, I thought that one of Jack Kent Cooke's sites was that site near the Wilson Bridge that you were talking about, and then number three. The Virginia really has been courting the Redskins hard and, for a long time. And I guess what you had said there on Twitter that day was that the financial failure thus far of the Richmond deal has soured Virginia on the Redskins. Is any of that accurate?
Well, I hope so, since I wrote it. But, I would think the problem is Richmond lawmakers have never been really thrilled with spending huge money in Northern Virginia.
Right.
But the demographics of Northern Virginia in the last decade or so have forced, they now have political power down at the State House they never had before. So they have that, but you're telling the State House, okay, we want you to spend $1 billion to $2 billion on the very edge of your state where a lot of your residents won't be going to games.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not going. They're not going to be happy about that. And this training camp deal where the Reds. Hey, I don't blame the Redskins. Richmond offered them this money, but it's not a good financial deal for Richmond. That's been proven after 3 training camps. And you can guarantee there'll be some lawmakers really upset about this, and will use this in the negotiations of what goes on. There's some talk that Alexandria is interested in trying to lure the stadium there. Good luck fighting those preservationists to the death. That's not happening.
Yeah.
The place that Jack Kent Cooke had is just now really being fully developed as a new town center kind of area, huge amount of housing. And so that area is not available. There is one off of 395 Shirlington area, that, some old shopping centers and all, maybe they could pull together. It's on Metro.
Right.
That may come up, but I don't see the lawmakers in the end willing to do this deal.
In addition to the location, obviously the design is of interest to Redskin fans, and we had that rendering from the architecture firm. Personally, I hated it.
Yeah, we have split opinions on this.
Yeah,
show.
we do. I hated the mode, and I just didn't like it. How close do we know how close that rendering is to the final product, or is that just one architect's dream, or where are we really?
Yeah, I mean, I remember Nats had something like this early on, too, so that's my feeling about it. It's probably an early thing. You think that's true, too?
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever bought a house, you start off with a lot of wish lists, and then when you see the price tag, you start taking stuff away, and suddenly there's no pool.
Budget change.
And yeah, that moat thing, I was like, I really looked hard at the photos going, is that a moat?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you imagine how many Cowboys fans are going to be in that thing?
Mm-hmm. Or Redskins fans.
How many drunks will be in that thing?
Yeah.
The only way to keep them out is to razor wire up.
I'm raising my hand not because I have a question, but because I'm probably going to be one of those drunks who falls in at some point.
Yeah,
we don't want that to happen.
It's silly to look at this thing. The guy's from Denmark who designed it. He's very well renowned. I've seen his housing projects; they're great. Mm-hmm. But why would you say let's do skating on the ice there? You can't go skating on the ice here.
Right.
Unless you've got some ice machine like the Cap Center, that's impractical. It's all impractical. So I figure the moat's probably not happening. The design that they did, which reminds me a little of the big sombrero,
right?
The reason they did it that way was to have more premium seats, more expensive seats, and it's all about money. This thing is all about money. It always is.
Yeah.
Every new venue is always about money.
Right.
Well, otherwise they just stay at RFK. So,
well, I would say this. The other thing that's surprising. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well, I would say this. The other thing that surprises me about the design is safety issue. How can you have a moat with only 3 exit points? If something goes on inside the stadium, how do you even get out of it?
Well, yeah. And as the resident lawyer here, it's a massive liability problem.
Yeah.
Which
would make me feel like it's just concept art.
Yeah, the liability issue is terrible. And the other key thing is there's no retractable roof on this thing. You're going to have a $2 billion facility like Jerry World. What does Jerry do? He's got stuff in that building all the time, because he's got a roof. And here we are much north of there. You need that retractable dome to, really get a Super Bowl, to get Final Fours, to get all these things that you need to go in there and justify putting up a $2 billion place. You don't have that with an open air. There's nothing wrong with a retractable roof. Open it up on nice days, great. But I think that's something they really should be looking hard at. So I think this design is a nice first try, but there's definitely going to be some changes into it.
Yeah, well, dropping the moat will save them probably $1 billion out of the $2 billion cost. So,
but then how do we keep the Black Knight away?
Right.
Yeah, they really need the roof, though. I mean, the roof is a go-no-go thing with the NFL, I think, for a Super Bowl, realistically.
Yeah. Well, I would rather no roof just because I like outdoor sports, but I know I'm losing that fight, so whatever.
Well, listen, Rick, we'd also like to ask you just a couple more questions about stuff going on in the other stuff going on in the Redskins world, I should say. Specifically, the schedule coming out today. What'd you think of that? First off in my head is we didn't see the Cowboys till week 13 last year. It's nice to see them right up front.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a brutal schedule.
Definitely.
In strength of schedule, it's the 17th, which is right in the middle. But the way they stack these games, I'd put it in the top 5 hardest schedules in the league. Things like 3 night games during the season, and one of them is a Sunday night game, and then you've got to go to Dallas to play on Thanksgiving. Whereas the Cowboys play at 1 o'clock. They get 8 hours more rest than the Redskins on a short week, and the Redskins have to fly there. That's brutal. They've got to, they've got to get off to at least a 5-3 start. 6-2 and that ends with playing Cincinnati and London. When they come back, they have a bye, and then they've got to play Vikings, Packers at home. All right, tough, maybe split. Then you've got to go to Dallas, Arizona, and the Eagles. Okay, you know that's a tough. And then when you come home, you got to play Carolina. I mean, wow. You know, this is just like sucker punching people repeatedly. Even the early parts of the schedule favor them a little, but you're opening Monday night against the Steelers. That's no easy game either.
No.
You know. So,
Definitely not.
It's also a good opportunity too. Like if the team's ready, to continue what they were doing at the end of the season, it'd be a great strong opening statement. If they happen to win the game.
Yeah, I mean the easy spot on the schedule really is they play Cleveland at home week 4, and I figure maybe RG3 is still playing by that point. So that would make it interesting. I don't know if he will. Maybe hurt.
Yeah.
Who knows?
How long do you think RG3 is going to last in Cleveland, Rick?
I think one, it's not a very good team, so that really hurts.
No.
And they're going to probably use the second pick to draft a quarterback. So I think maybe Robert gets a half season. Let's say the team that is 2-6, even if he's trying to play well, you're going to go to your rookie at that point. You have to. So Robert's got to hope to have a good start, get on film, so next season he can go somewhere else. That's his only hope for saving his career. But that's all he's going to get because Cleveland's not good enough to keep him still playing and bench a rookie at the second overall pick. They got to play him. So Robert's always, it's not a good spot for Robert, really. But he'll get, Hugh Jackson, he used to do it with the Redskins, is an honest, fair guy. He'll give him a chance on this, and that's all Robert can ask.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a fun start to the schedule there because you've got RG and Morris. You've kind of got two marquee games with departed free agents up there at the front of the schedule. So it's going to be kind of a showy start to the season, too.
Yeah, it's nice that they are playing the Cowboys and Giants weeks 2 and 3.
Yeah.
You hate to see your division teams not show up till mid-season. You want to play them a little bit so you don't play them so much together. It's a really tough schedule. I'll say that. I'm hoping to go to the London game, and that'll be a lot of fun in a way. But the Bengals are a pretty good team too, so that's going to be a huge game for Redskins fans. I have heard from so many Redskins fans in Europe. There's a Redskins fan club in Spain. There are ones in Europe. I mean, it kind of dates back to the Skins were the first team to play over there in a preseason just 6 months after they won a Super Bowl. So they've always had a huge following over in England, and I think they're going to own the house at Wembley. Lots of Redskins fans are going. Hey, if you can go, it's a great time. London's a wonderful city, and there'll be plenty to do. I've already got more beer promised me to show up there, so I'm not even going to be sober all week. It's going to be a lot of fun.
My last question about the schedule, the whole playing Dallas on Thanksgiving. I'm not a fan of Thanksgiving games in general.
Yeah.
For you, you've been covering the team forever, and so you've covered at least 3 or 4 Redskins Thanksgiving games now, or something like that.
I haven't gone to a lot of them for different reasons, but I have done it. Okay. And I was telling somebody, Dallas closes down early that day, so when you get done with the game, there's nowhere to eat. And I ended up eating in a Mexican cantina that night. and who walks in? Stanley Richard, of all people.
Oh, wow.
Who was there? He had
sheriff.
family there. Yeah, the team let him stay behind for Thanksgiving, and he had family in the restaurant. And it was mind-blowing, But,
wow.
Being on the road as a writer, this sucks. And this schedule sucks. They have a Christmas Eve game and we're on the road, too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow, yeah.
And for fans, you've got all these night games that you got to get up in the morning.
Sure.
But it's the price. It's the price of being good one season. Is the next season you get all these national TV games, and I think they have 9 1:00 starts.
Right.
So they have was there like 7 other ones.
I'm one of those guys. I wish all the games were at 1:00. I like my 1:00 games.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a fan.
I also wish that the NFL would break away from Detroit and Dallas always hosting.
Oh yeah.
Now they hosted in the early years, and what happened a few years ago is they were going to take it away from Detroit, especially. And the Ford family, which owns the Lions, said, "You do that, and our Ford commercials aren't going to be on the NFL games anymore." And the NFL backed down, and they added a third game instead.
Interesting.
They added the night game.
I did not know.
They added the night game.
See,
that's why it all happened.
My issue is just because, Robbie, you asked me this. I feel like Thanksgiving, you need to have some time where you actually spend with your family, and the 3 back-to-back-to-back games now makes that impossible. There's no time to actually sit down and eat dinner like a mature adult.
That's a really good point.
See, in my family, it's the complete opposite. We are all about the game and commune through the game. I guess that's just different.
Yeah.
Way to throw a wrench in our theory, Robbie.
No, it's not a theory.
Someone's
it's
gotta
a
be
personal
devil's
preference
advocate.
thing for me.
Yeah. Well, look, Rick, we also want to just, not to change gears too rapidly here, but we also have to ask you, as part of our lead up to the draft here, we all did mock drafts. We had to get your quick thoughts on what the Redskins are going to do here up front in the draft. So just to give you a little context, 3 of us took defensive ends or defensive tackles, and then Robbie took the offensive lineman there. So where do you think the Redskins are going to go here in the first round?
Well, McLuhan said he's already got a good idea of who he wants to take.
Yeah.
Which means I think that he's taking someone against conventional logic. But I would still think he's going to take a defensive lineman. There'll be one there that's pretty good, and he seems, he loves big guys. I saw an SI mock draft had him taking a center, and I thought there's no way. I mean, you may need one, but I don't see that happening. And not after you took a guard last year at the 5th pick,
Yeah.
I think they're going to go defensive lineman. If they don't go there, they'll probably go safety. Boy, this could go. You could give me 5 tries and I could miss it.
Sure.
But
I'm sure we're all wrong.
Defensive help is, I think, really going to be throughout the draft. Maybe if you get a receiver in the right spot, they take him. A center would be great if they could go there, or running back. That's pretty good, because I'm not sold on Jones at all on that.
Sure.
So, and I could see him taking a developmental quarterback even, because you can't keep bringing a Colt quarterback like this.
Now you're saying that in the later rounds, right? That's
yeah. But the first 2 rounds wouldn't shock me if both will be defensive players probably, and at least one of them will be a lineman, one will be a safety.
Well, you brought up running back, and we've had many debates on the show about the running game at the Redskins, and I think we have somewhat of a split opinion as to Matt Jones. I'm not a big fan of him. It does seem like the team wants to give him his shot. In the mock draft we did, all of us picked a running back. Right. Do you think the Redskins are going to draft somebody and give that new running back a legitimate shot to become the feature back over Jones, or is Jones just going to get the job?
I think Jones gets first chance, but that's it. If they can get anybody they think is decent, I could see them saying, go for it. I mean, Jones, I'm kind of shocked that they've left themselves with Jones. He wasn't very good last season. He wasn't as good as Alfred.
Yeah, and now Silas is out of the picture.
All right.
Speaking of Silas, we had Silas on the show 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And
what time?
2 weeks. Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago today, as a matter of fact. And at that time, he seemed upbeat. He mentioned not one single word about any problems. He was looking forward to the season. What do you know about what's happened with Silas Red?
I don't have too much that everybody else doesn't already know. I mean, I just saw that and thought, wow, what a shame. This guy was life and death to make the roster, and he did it. And he had a problem last year getting hurt, but the guy was life and death to make it, and then he threw it away by doing something like this. Not the first guy I've seen, but your second one. Redskins won't have him on their roster. They're not going to bring him back. They're not going to bother with it.
Right.
After that Tenard Jackson thing just shows you don't even bother.
Yeah, that went on and on.
I mean, you got 2 chances and blew it, so. That's a damn shame, because the NFL is hard to get to. He did everything he had to get here, and then he threw it away. So,
And he seems like a nice guy when we talked to him. I was actually really stunned when it happened.
Oh, the nicest, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great guy. I mean, these things, they're similar. Drugs today are so different than, years ago when I was their age. People aren't afraid of them anymore like they used to be.
Sure.
When I was a young guy many years ago, cocaine wasn't something that you even ever saw. You heard about it, but nobody, heroin, things like that. you were scared to death to do any of this kind of stuff.
Sure.
And today we have a big heroin problem in this country, and it's just sad what goes on. That's why I'm not a big marijuana fan, because I'm afraid of it being a gateway into these other problems. And that makes me sound old, but I grew up in the '60s. I know what pot is. But these things scare you as to what happens. So I did want to say one thing on the draft. Eli Apple, there's a guy I'd really like to see him take if they go.
Really?
Especially if they drop down a little, which they could. If they drop down a little, I could see them going with them.
You like him? You like him over Mackenzie Alexander, the dude from Clemson?
Yeah, a little bit. The guy, the defensive lineman from Alabama,
Reed.
Who's a monster. I mean, I've seen stuff of him, and you just go, "Holy cow! Why isn't this guy going first in the draft?" You look at him. If he's there for the Redskins, I would grab him, but I can't imagine he'd be there at 21.
Hey, Rick, I have a question. This is just something that kind of came to my mind because we signed, who was it, Toller? Was that today or yesterday? And with him and the Davis signing, is this Scott bringing in veteran guys more for leadership, you think, or is this him looking for legitimate depth? Or, obviously it's a little of both, but what do you think he's focusing on more?
Well, it's a one-year deal, which is a show-me deal, and the guy is 31. The guy's 31, had a nice career. I'm a little surprised he couldn't find anybody to give him more than a one-year deal. I don't think leadership is something you necessarily go look for because especially when guys change teams, it's unusual for them to step up. They had guys do it last year, but usually your first year on a new team, guys step back. And so it's hard to buy that. But he's looking for depth. He's looking for a guy that still maybe has a little juice left that's willing to take a pay me, 1 year show me kind of deal. And that's what this is about. But it definitely, if he's got anything left, and I think he does, I think it was a smart move.
Okay.
All right. Well, you heard it here, folks. There you have it, Mr. Rick Snider. Rick, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate having you on the show. Again, you're our first repeat guest. Or actually, you're one of our only repeat guests. You're not the only one.
No, Joe Jacoby also was a repeat. So
gotta
in
give
company with Joe
Jacoby
Jacoby.
Repeat sports writer.
We're about the same weight. He's just 8 inches taller than I am, but I covered him too. He's a monstrous man. Covered him, a monstrous guy who should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
and I think he will in the next 5 years.
Hey, Rick, speaking of Hall of Fame, is David Elfin retiring? Do you know?
I don't know. I know he did it this year, but David's not really covering the NFL anymore. But then again, there's nobody else qualified, in my opinion, to take that vote on that is willing to do it.
I can think of one name that probably
I can think of Rick Snider that ought to be taking it over if David Elfin leaves.
Well, if I covered the Super Bowl, which I don't anymore, then I would speak it, to be honest. But you have to be there the day before the Super Bowl to be a voter.
Yeah.
And I now write for 4 or 5 groups, but nobody pays for me to go to the Super Bowl, and that's fine. I did my share of them, and I'd be glad to do it again, but probably not happening. So I don't really know of anybody who goes to the Super Bowl from around here, and you have to have a voter from each city, so we need someone from Washington. I don't really see anybody, definitely nobody more qualified than Dave. It's just, is Dave still going to do it? I don't know. He's done a great job with all of this. He's helped get several guys in. I know he worked very hard to get Jacoby to the end this year. So if Dave wants to do it, he's more than welcome to it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to keep pulling for Jacoby too, so hopefully with everybody's powers combined, we can get him in there. But anyways, thank you so much, Rick. It was really a pleasure to have you. And can we get you on again for a third time someday?
Fooled me twice. Who knows? I may show up again.
All right. Well, we'll do our best to fool you.
And Rick, let me know whenever you want to do another Jay Gruden movie parody.
Yeah, that was certainly one for the ages. We came on my podcast and did A Few Good Men, and never met anybody else do it. Jay Gruden. I've since heard one other person, not as good as you, but
okay,
it was pretty amazing.
Got to keep on your lookout, Robbie. There are people nipping at your heels here with the impression.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's Rick Snider at Snide_remarks on Twitter. Check him out, and also on the Burgundy and Gold Hour. Love the show. You can check him out there.
All right. So, man, guys, that was a good interview with Rick Snider. For purposes of public disclosure to our fans, we are recording the last half of this show a few days later. It's Saturday morning. Sean couldn't make it this morning, but I still have Robbie and Steve here with me. So, guys, any kind of final thoughts real quick on the Snider interview? I love it. I could talk to Rick Snider every day.
Well, he's a great talker. You know, it's
Absolutely.
like you ask him one question, he's going to talk for 30 minutes, which for people who do a podcast, it's the easiest way to go.
Right. Unless you're one of the types who wants it to all be you all the time. And then it gets a little tough.
I definitely didn't expect to talk about the stadium for that long.
No.
Remember, he came to us about it,
Mm-hmm.
for those who don't know, and said, hey, let's talk about the stadium on your show, basically. And it started with a Twitter conversation, honestly.
Right.
But he wrote an article about it, and that's why it was on his brain, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, it started because the whole topic started because I had put out there on the Hogside Twitter account that I thought Virginia was a likely source, and Rick just totally disagreed with that, as he talked about in the interview. You know,
He came on, Steve, you're an idiot.
yeah, basically. Maybe I am, but I still maintain that Virginia's going to try hard. But point is, that's how the whole thing started. But he really had the stadium on the brain for sure.
Snider, he's not just a stadium guy, though. Like, you can tell from what we were talking about, he knows everything about this city. Like, little things like, oh, well, they left this clearing in the middle of the highway so that they could eventually put a metro down. Yeah. I've been down that highway 100 times. I've never really noticed.
Well, you know, people, you guys know this, but for everybody out there, he actually does city tours on the weekends and stuff. And so if anybody needs a good tour guide, he does great tours of, historical sites and stuff. It's on, you can find it on his Twitter page at a minimum.
Yeah. Robbie and I had a little back and forth with him about the Lincoln assassination, which celebrated its anniversary a few days ago.
And I had a brilliant comment on that.
Which was what?
What was it that was said before? You said something before me.
I said there were not very positive reviews for the play.
Yeah, and I replied saying mind blowing.
Too soon, Robbie. Still too soon.
What?
He actually does a Lincoln assassination tour.
Yeah, apparently he is a descendant of Mary Stuart. Or
really?
Yeah,
not Mary Stuart.
Or who's the woman?
Mary
who was
Todd.
Hung? No.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Lincoln's wife as Mary Todd Lincoln.
No, the woman that got hung for treason.
Oh, the one who was the innkeeper.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. I don't know.
Don't know that one.
It's on his Twitter, but
it's Robbie. It was somebody. She was she harbored John Wilkes Booth
right
before the assassination, and the plan was for them to go back there afterwards. And the investigation tracked everybody to that inn, and then they found her and hung her.
Her, John Wilkes Booth, Mudd, all those people. But we're not here to talk about 150-year-old murders.
Welcome to the History Hour on the podcast.
I could do a History Hour podcast. I'd like that, but I don't need to do more podcasts. Guys, let's really talk about something we haven't covered. It's been a few weeks now, and that is we've signed a couple veteran free agents for depth purposes. The first one, of course, is the tight end Davis, local boy, which I know, people tell me I'm nuts for it, but I love it when local guys come back here.
So is Greg Toller.
Yeah, that's true. Toller's the other one, cornerback. And what do you remember what his position was in Indianapolis, Robbie? Was he their third down or their third corner, or was he their number 2 guy?
I think he was their number 2 guy, I want to say.
Yeah, I think he was the number 2 guy. That's my memory.
That's a good value pick, then, if he could be a number 2 for us.
We really need somebody like that, though, because Chris Culliver is, he's a real question mark still. His knee injury, I think, is not healed yet. They don't know if he's going to be ready for training camp.
Right.
And honestly, I wasn't that impressed with him, when he did play, probably because we were misusing him. He's a press man corner. And,
right.
Of course, we didn't use him as that. It's just brilliant to bring a guy in who's one of the elite press man corners, and you don't use him like that. Congratulations, Redskins coaching staff.
Yeah. Well, I think Barry was so, into his idea of a 3-deep system. But, And I by the way, I also say Breland's a press man guy. I don't know why we don't use them both that way.
You can still run cover 3 in a press.
Yeah,
I
that's
understand you give them cushion in a cover 3, but you can still walk them up and
Hit the
basically
guy.
play press man in cover 3 if you wanted to.
That's what it's going to turn, and it's going to turn out to basically be man coverage in a
Yeah.
situation like that. Because the zone, for those of you who don't know, the cover 3 is what Alex is talking about, and
Yeah.
it's basically the corners have the sides, and the free safety has the middle, the strong safety's up, and so if you play press man with the corners, it's basically man to man on man coverage unless the patterns are like a post that go
Yeah.
in or crossing patterns.
Then the safety would have it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Richard Sherman with the Seahawks, that's what he does. He's a
Sure.
press cover 3 corner, and
Yeah.
it's working out beautifully for him.
Mm-hmm.
Tolliver's the same way too. Him and Breland both are press guys.
We have to start using those two guys, in a manner that plays to their strengths.
Yeah, and hopefully we will. But I do want to get back to Davis and Toller. What did you guys really think about the signings? I love them not just because they're locals. I think that it gives you some veteran presence that we kind of lost in free agency.
It's like the fans out there either loved Davis or hated Davis. It seemed like there was no in between. For me, I thought it was great, and I thought it was Davis is great because even if he is a shell of himself, and clearly, time has taken its toll, but I don't think he's as bad and unproductive as he was in Denver last year. But, he was like a high 4.3 guy. 40 time, even if he's running a 4.5, 4.55, 4.6, that's still blazing fast for a tight end. And if you get him and Reed on the field at the same time, I think that can present a situation where teams will have to choose, pick your poison, especially if Deshaun Jackson's on the field. At the same time, you've got a lot of speed out there and a lot of capability, and there's only so many tight ends, linebackers can cover and still put pressure on the quarterback. I think it's a great thing. Then you have Niles Paul. We're really going to have a great tight end rotation with him out there. I
If they
think.
stay healthy this year.
Yeah, well,
Steve-
health.
So Steve, do you have Davis's contract numbers with you?
I'll get it in just a second. If you can tell us your thoughts on
Basically,
Davis as a player.
he's getting paid as a number 2 guy. He's not,
Right.
coming in to be a depth number 3 blocking tight end. He's being looked at to be the number 2 guy behind Reed right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame for Niles Paul since he works his ass off last season, become the starter, and then he got hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, we're really deep now.
Yeah. I mean,
Davis's
that's the thing.
contract.
I remember last year he had about 500 yards, and people are like, "Well, look, his production down. Who cares? He's not going to be out there all the time." That's perfect for us.
Davis's contract was 1 year, $2.4 million total, $500,000 signing bonus, $431,000 roster bonus, $100,000 workout bonus, which, for those of you who don't know, the workout bonuses mean if you attend a certain number of the off-season workouts, you get the money. That doesn't count against the salary cap, but it's easily attainable. He's got a $2.381 million cap hit, $1.1 million dead cap. Mm-hmm. So that means, if he just falls off a cliff, they can cut him without a problem. But he's got a big number. Listen, it's not a number. 2.3 million is not third tight end contract.
But, yeah.
No, but that's way bigger than you would have for a normal third tight end. So that tells you exactly what you guys just said, which is he's not come in here to be a third string tight end. They expect him to be productive.
Right. And that,
but if he's not, they can cut him.
Yeah. I have no problem with it personally, and I think, if Gruden's a passing coach, and tight ends seem to be what Kirk Cousins likes to hit, target wise.
Yeah.
Then having 3 good receiving tight ends on this roster now makes a lot of sense.
I just said I don't know if it was that he loves tight ends or if it was just that was our best receiver was Jordan Reed.
It could be a little both.
Best overall, you could say that. He does all kinds of stuff that not the other receivers can do.
Right.
But having Vernon Davis now, even Niles Paul being back, you have a guy that you can put in at tight end and flex Jordan Reed out as an actual receiver, and create huge
Davis too.
You can do that with all 3 of them.
Yeah, really, you could. And it creates a huge mismatch. You could put him on a cover corner that's good at coverage, but how are they going to big body a guy like Jordan Reed or Vernon Davis or even Niles Paul, who's like the Hulk. You know, the guy is huge. I don't see how you're going to have a small corner cover a guy like them.
I don't think you can.
Well, yeah, and people don't remember this, but the reason why Vernon Davis was so good in San Francisco is that he's got the speed, he's got elite wide receiver speed, yet he was in a tight end position, so there's not a linebacker in the NFL anywhere that can cover him one on one, and so if you play him in a traditional tight end sets. Unless you get him, you knock him off his pattern right on the line,
right?
He's almost always going to be open. And that's why he was doing so well in San Francisco.
If you look at his highlights from when he was in his prime, it's a lot of him just going straight down the field from the tight end spot, and nobody can, catch him.
You can't catch him.
Yeah. Well, do you guys want to talk about Tolo a little too? I mean, is it anything more than just us having a plan B if Culver's out, you think, or just good depth for the year?
He's good depth for the year. He'll fight for a roster spot. I don't know if he'll get it. I mean, especially considering that there's a great chance that we will draft, or maybe even a guarantee that we will draft another corner.
Right.
So he's a long-armed guy. He's a press kind of guy too. I mean, we're getting press guys. I would like to see us use them like that, like I said before. But I don't know. I think it's a good body to have in camp. He's a veteran guy. He's a guy that the young guys can learn from, like Culliver and like D'Angelo Hall and all that. I don't know. I could see him being like our third guy. Maybe push Will Blackman out of the roster. That would make you happy, Alex.
Well, yeah. I mean, he and Blackman are the same age, so it doesn't do anything for my goal, which is get younger. That's my biggest issue with Blackman is just his age. I want us to have guys in their early to mid-20s at this point. To me, it's more interesting is what it means for taking pressure off of Dunbar, who I think we all agree had a very good rookie season for a guy changing positions. Yeah. But it is a little nerve-wracking to think he could have gotten a lot of playing time this year if Culver was out.
Well, I mean, we got incredibly lucky in our secondary last year with the number of injuries we had. It could have been a complete disaster. I mean, you literally just fell into Dunbar, you know, for example. I mean, who knew that Dunbar was even going to make the team in any capacity, much less be able to look like a competent player at corner when he's never done it since high school. I mean, it's just incredible. And I think although our secondary was not that bad last year, it was really just a stroke of luck more than anything. We just fell into these guys like Blackman, who turned out they could play and kind of keep us in games. But I think Scott realizes that, the rebuild on our secondary was nowhere close to done.
Sure.
At some point I think at some point he's going to bring in another top corner through the draft I'm talking about. If he drafts Eli Apple or Mackenzie Alexander, it wouldn't surprise me in round one.
I think a top corner, a top safety, something.
Yeah, both.
I wouldn't be surprised if in the first 3 rounds we hit one of those spots.
This is the first draft I can remember where I think unless they draft like a tackle, an outside linebacker, or a quarterback in the top of the draft, I think that I won't be unhappy with almost anything they bring in. Because we literally need help on like every position. Yeah. Except those 3, as far as I can tell.
We're not desperate at any position, but we can really use the help at a lot of spots.
Yep.
Oh, I think we're desperate on the defensive line. I think our defensive line was terrible, awful. It was one of the worst in the league last year against the run. Wow. It was fair to Midland and sack totals. They were terrible against the run.
I like Ricky John-Francois. I like Chris Baker. We don't have depth behind them. That's my concern.
No, and neither of those guys are elite talents either. We have no elite talent.
No, they're just solid players.
They're red players, as Scott McLuhan.
They might not.
What was the red and blue? I can't remember.
Red
which
chip,
was
blue
which.
chip.
Yeah, but
red,
which
he
one
said
was
red.
which?
Red are good football players, like the ones that are just they do their job really well. They're not elite, but they're good football players.
And blue chips are perennial Pro Bowlers. So red chips
they're like
are
your
guys
all stars.
A guy who like Kerrigan who makes 1 Pro Bowl, maybe 2, but
okay. Well, let's do a game then here. Not a game, but who are our blue chip players on defense?
Only one. Non defense. None.
Defense first.
None.
Any? None.
None. We got a lot of red chips, I think, but not a lot of blue
I think
chips.
D'Angelo Hall at one point in time was a blue chip player.
Yeah, but he's not
now.
anymore. He's a red
I
chip
think
now.
I think Preston Smith could be a blue chip
Yeah.
But
if
he's
he
not
continues
yet.
to develop.
Same with Breland. He could be if he develops.
Yeah. So we have none on defense. What about offense?
Trent
Trent
Williams.
Williams and maybe Jordan Reed could be.
Deshaun Jackson is a blue chip player, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he's on the field.
When he's
a
healthy,
blue chip.
yeah.
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 Other than
Trent,
that, I think,
Trent Jordan and
Yeah.
Deshaun.
yeah.
Yeah. There are
So,
guys who are kind of in between. I would say Jordan Reed's the perfect example where if you look at his numbers, he should have been a Pro Bowler, but he wasn't for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
If he has another year like he has last year, like he had last year, I think he will start to be recognized as a blue chip sort of talent.
I think so. And so McLuhan's point with all that, and I love the whole. If you haven't read that interview on Bleacher Report, I loved it. It was a great interview. But his point was a team should have 4 to 5 blue chip players, and if you're lucky, one's your quarterback. He said, but then the rest of the roster, 30 players or so, is going to be red chips.
Yep.
But we don't, and we have none on defense, and so that goes to show where the priority is going to be for this year's draft. I think.
Yeah, oh yeah, for building, yeah, it's still
Yeah.
defense. We have
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We do have red chip guys on defense. Like I said, Kerrigan's definitely a red chip. I think Gallette's going to be a red chip guy. Smith, a lot of guys
Yeah.
at the linebacker position.
Yeah.
So let's move on, guys. The big news this week was obviously the trade for the number 1 all pick. The St. Louis Rams, who did it to us years ago, kind of got hosed by the Titans, I feel like. They traded 6 picks, a 1, a 2, a 2, a 3, and a 3 for the number 1 pick this year, and I believe a 4th and a 6th round pick. What are your guys' thoughts? I think it's kind of karma myself.
I think it was the dumbest trade I've ever heard, ever. And the reason I say that is I will not pretend to be a quarterback expert at all, but none of these guys, based on what I've seen at the combine and reviews and watching the games, I think none of them are elite quarterback prospects, including Wentz, including Goff.
No.
Neither one of those guys blew me away at the combine at all. And the idea that the Rams traded, well, how many was it? 6 picks, right?
6 picks for
and then
6 picks. Like I said, I think it's a first this year, next year, 2 second rounds this year, a third this year, and a third next year.
They traded more than we traded for Robert Griffin.
Yeah.
For prospects for quarterback prospects that are significantly less than we at the time. Our prospects were Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin were the two
Right.
we could have gotten, and neither of those quarterbacks are anywhere near the prospects that those 2 guys were. So I think it's an incredibly dumb trade.
This is the Herschel Walker trade. Again.
Yes.
It kind of is.
But here's the kicker. I mean, the beautiful thing for the Titans, that is, they get 6 picks in the top 76.
That's incredible.
That's 6 players of the top 75, basically, in the draft.
For the next 2 years.
And what's
They can-
beautiful about that is that they
They can
have their
burn up. They
quarterback.
can. Sorry, yeah, sorry. They have their quarterback. They can draft a lineman. There's a good chance that Ronnie Stanley will fall down, and they could still get him to block the other side for Mariota.
Right.
They could burn a pick in the 2nd or 3rd round on Jalen Smith, a guy that has an injury, will sit out next year.
Yeah.
This coming season, and be pretty much ready to go the next season, and be a potential all-pro type player.
Yeah. By the way, that news that he's going to have to already know he's sitting out. His stock is going to drop like a rock. I feel like.
I don't
feel
think
bad
so. I'd be very surprised if he gets taken outside of the 3rd round.
Well, like Tennessee last year, their franchise running back was who?
I don't
You guys remember?
It's Tennessee. Does anyone pay attention?
Yeah, some people in Tennessee do, I guess. But point is, we can't remember it. Wide receivers, who do they have starting wide receivers?
They don't have many weapons on offense.
Right, and so they're
They have-
going to use those. Huh? Go ahead.
They have a
Remember?
potential great receiver in Dorial Green Beckham, 6'5",
That's right.
Right.
Calvin
Right.
Calvin Johnson type player who,
But not quite that level athletically.
not his level coming out, but he could be that kind of receiver.
Point is, they can burn one of those picks on an elite wide receiver prospect. They can grab an offensive lineman. They can grab a running back.
Mm-hmm.
They have the opportunity to rebuild a significant portion of their team almost in 1 to 2 years as a result of this trade. And what are the Rams going to get out of it? They're going to get a quarterback out of one of the weakest quarterback classes I can remember in several years.
Yeah.
Probably not quite as weak as the one with Geno Smith, but yeah.
But
Outside of that,
2011 was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Outside of Cam Newton, it was a
Right,
bunch
right.
of junk. But I think this class could compare to that.
Yeah, probably. I'm with you. I'm not a fan of blockbuster trades in general. For the team that's trading up, I just don't understand it unless it is an Andrew Luck level talent on the number one spot.
Well, that's why I agreed with the Redskins trade at the time, because I've always said if you think you can get a real franchise quarterback, there's
Yeah, I
no
guess.
price to be paid that is too much. There really isn't. I
It's
don't
always
think
a
you
little
can.
hard to look back 2020.
Yeah, but at the time, we had two of the highest graded quarterback prospects that Mel Kiper had ever done.
Right.
Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin. And while the Griffin trade ultimately didn't work out, I thought it was a good gamble, and it's easy for the naysayers to look back and pee all over it. But
Right.
but I think for what we gave up versus the opportunity we had wasn't obnoxious. I think this trade here is obnoxious.
Yeah, and let's not forget that our quarterback the year before was Rex Grossman and John Beck. So we were
Yeah.
desperate.
Well, the Rams are almost as desperate. They had Case Keenum starting, remember?
I thought don't they still have Foles? No, they got rid of Foles. Okay, yeah, they're as desperate then.
And Keenum was the guy who got knocked out and wobbled all over the field, and they didn't take him out. Remember?
Oh,
Even though he
right.
clearly had a concussion. It's like, oh well, so what? Let him keep playing.
Well, who do we think they're going to take? Are they taking Carson
Wentz.
Wentz?
I think
Wentz.
Goff.
I think it's
I think
Goff
Wentz.
too.
I don't know.
It's
I mean,
marketing, man.
Goff,
They're about the same. Goff probably has a higher upside in 5 years than Wentz does.
Goff did not impress me.
Goff,
From what I watched.
back when we first talked about him in the middle of the season, he looked like a potential like Aaron Rodgers type quarterback. He looked
Right.
Yeah.
amazing. He looked
But he needs to
spectacular.
develop.
And then he fell off and had
Yeah.
like a 5-pick game and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I think he's definitely the better quarterback over Carson Wentz. I personally don't understand the hype and media crush they have on Carson Wentz.
I thought he looked better than Goff at the combine.
But that's the combine, Steve.
I know. Maybe I'm putting too much stock in it, but I didn't watch a lot of Carson Wentz tape. Okay, I'll leave
Nobody
that to
did because I
Robbie,
don't know. There are probably Carson Wentz games that weren't taped.
Did you watch? Have you seen? How much film have you seen of Wentz, Robbie?
I've watched a little bit just to be out of curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a good quarterback. He could be a really good one, but I mean, you have to consider the level of competition. As I hate to say that, because I came from the same division as him,
Right.
But you're not an elite quarterback prospect, Robbie.
Well,
I mean,
no.
that's-
I'm just saying. I played the same guys that he did,
Right.
Yeah.
and I like to think that he could. I would like to root for him over Goff because he's kind of like an underdog becoming a big dog type thing. But I don't know. It's
Joe Flacco came from the same level of competition, and
look
he's
at Joe
done fine.
Flacco. He won
Yeah.
he did win a Super Bowl, but
Right.
what's happened to him? What's
But
he doing now?
But wait a minute. My point wasn't to downgrade. My point was he's overpaid. Yes, I mean no doubt.
But he is a
he's
solid
become
quarterback.
he's a solid top 10 maybe NFL quarterback, and he came from a small school. It's not to say that Wentz can't become it. He's just got long odds.
Yeah, I don't think he could be Flacco. That's
Yeah.
basically my point.
Here's the thing that is a red flag to me when I listen to people raving about Wentz. It's always, well, he's got the size. I don't care.
Flacco has size too, but I mean,
You know who doesn't have the size? Russell Wilson.
yeah.
Drew Brees. Even Tom Brady doesn't quite have all the physical attributes when he came out of school that a prototype quarterback would have.
And neither did Peyton Manning,
Right.
for that matter.
Yeah, but those guys were
They developed.
big. They were big time
Right.
D1 players. So
Right. And
all of those guys.
I understand that. But I'm just, my point being, I don't care if a guy's got the perfect 6'4", he's got the perfect
No.
hand size to hold the ball.
I think I think what you have to do is look at all the factors, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you fly airplanes, you evaluate risk and then you kind of compartmentalize risk. You have the weather, you have, the weight and balance, you have a bunch of other things. And when the risk factors get too high, you just don't fly, right? And so quarterbacks, you let's look at all his attributes. Does he have the size? It's okay if he doesn't, but he has to have the arm. If his hand size, if he's got an 8.5-inch hand, that's not dispositive of it. But if you add that into small school, small frame, weak arm, small size, he may be a gamer, but if he's got a whole bunch of attributes against him, probably not a good pro prospect.
And here's a weird thing to me. It seems like every year there's always there's two quarterbacks like
they love to do that.
Luck, RG3, Mariota, Jameis Winston, Wentz, Goff, Ryan Leaf, Peyton Manning.
Sure.
I don't know. I feel like they're good, but I guess the quarterback position is extremely valuable, and they go higher than they should. It's just weird to me that they.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Let's talk about Wentz and Goff and what I just said. You got attributes. Wentz has got the size, right? He's got the arm. Really, the main knock against Wentz is his level of competition. He's from North Dakota State, or is it South Dakota? North Dakota, right?
North Dakota.
And so he's got the arm, he's got the size. He performed well at the combine. His tape looks good, but his knock is small school, and so you have all the other risk factors, and maybe you can take a shot at him.
Right.
What's Goff? Goff is from a big school with a history of developing quarterbacks, right? He's from Cal.
He's got the brain thing.
He's got the brain.
Yeah.
And so what does he have the size? How big is he? You guys know?
Goff is 6'4".
Yeah, he's
got the size.
Yeah.
He's got small hands though.
Yeah.
He's got small.
That's the big thing.
Yeah, people are worried about the fact that he's going to be one of those quarterbacks who plays with a glove his whole life.
Well, and I think the hands is a factor.
Is.
It's a factor to look at.
It is
a factor, but I look at the talent more than I do. Oh my God, his hand is 9 inches long.
Well, all I'm saying is this is kind of an extension of the Bill Parcells quarterback theory.
Sure.
Bill Parcells, and I'm going to get the categories wrong, but and you have to play a certain number of games.
I think it was 34 games. It
was
in that range.
He had like 4 categories. Yeah. If you don't meet them all, I'm just not going to bother with them. All I'm saying is, the hands is a factor, but he's got other. Yeah. He's from Cal. He's got good. Who has a great history of developing quarterbacks. He's got good tape. He's got good size. Right. He didn't look that good on the combine. And so you've got a bunch of factors for him, and you've got a couple against him, and so somebody will take a shot at him.
That's the thing. Whereas RG3 and Andrew Luck checked off almost all the boxes between the two of them.
RG3 didn't have the hand size, really.
That explains his fumble problems.
It does. His hands are like 9 1/4 or something. He's got fairly small hands for a football player.
But I mean, when you look at because there's a lot of boxes that we're talking about. It's not just 4 or 5. When you look at all the boxes, RG3 and Andrew Luck checked off most of them. These guys, neither of them check off as many boxes. That's right. And I think that's the big thing. I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
Interesting thing I've seen is a couple draft experts actually have these two rated higher than they do Winston and Mariota, which I think is
silly.
way off.
Yeah,
Winston. If you ask me,
Winston oozes talent that those two don't have, in my opinion. And Mariota
and he oozes pro level talent too.
Right. Yes, that's what I mean. And Mariota has an it factor that those two don't have, I think, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, if you ask me, having been in the front office of a football team, this trade smacks of coming from ownership. Okay, because they think about this. The Rams moved from St. Louis to L.A. Right. Who do they have on their team that right now today that they can market?
Nobody.
Nobody, right?
Yeah.
They have some good players
who's that jersey that's going to fly off the racks? Nobody.
Exactly right. And so this smacks of ownership saying, you guys need to do what you need to do to bring in a player who I can put on the front of the program and I can trot out to the LA media and LA guys, and they did it. They brought the quarterback in.
And just to kind of off that, that's why I think it's going to be Goff. He's a California guy, makes him super marketable. So I think if that's the reason, then why wouldn't you go with all in?
I mean, he's a good-looking guy too, blonde-headed, from California. He's got that beach
surfer
look to him.
Yeah,
he's got it's a huge marketable thing, and I think he's easily more of a face for your team than Carson Wentz is.
Mm-hmm.
Who went to North Dakota? Is he from somewhere up in the Midwest?
I'm not sure exactly where he's from.
Look that up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think there's really not much more to say about these guys at this point. And we're about
now I'm curious. Now I'm curious as to where.
Yeah,
where he's
yeah.
me
But I do want to change gears and start getting into some of the final stuff we have to wrap up the show. One being that we did a couple polls. The first poll, less interesting poll really, was we asked our fans what they thought of our draft picks.
Ooh, how'd that go?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I wonder who won, Robbie.
The question was, whose mock draft did you like the most?
Right.
This week's show, we each gave our picks. Look at them here and vote. And the answer was Steve got 96% of the votes.
Yeah, right.
No, that's not true.
Recount.
Robbie got 68% of the votes. Alex came in distant second at 18%. Steve got 14%, and Sean got 0.
Yeah. So you and I, Steve, were a difference of 1 vote, basically.
Which is sort of what we said.
Yeah.
Incidentally, this is how it said. We said Robbie's our expert. He knows more. Yeah. Alex pays a little bit more attention than I do. I know a little bit. Sean knows, by his own words, knows nothing. And that's exactly how the votes turned out.
And admittedly, you and I picked the same first 2 picks, so I'm not shocked we were almost
even.
tied.
Oh, yeah. By the way, Carson Wentz is from North Dakota, so there you go.
Makes sense.
Yeah. All right. And then you said we had another poll that you did. At the time right now, it's still an open poll, but we have so many votes that we feel good about the results.
Yes. The question was, now that the Skins 2016 schedule is out, how many wins do you think the Skins will have next season? The categories, since Twitter only lets you have 4 selections here.
Right.
So the categories were 12 or more wins, between 9 and 11 wins, between 6 and 8 wins, or 5 or less wins. And again, we've got a pretty good number of votes in spite of the fact that there's 7 hours left. This is actually our best performing poll out of the ones we've done recently.
People love to guess wins, I found.
Yeah.
And let me guess. I haven't seen it yet, but let me guess.
Go ahead.
It's the 9 to 11, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
9 to 11 has gotten so far 53% of the votes.
Skins fans, you're being a little too predictable here.
What do you think is the second most?
Second most, I'm going to
8.
go, whatever it is below that.
6 to 8. 6 to 8.
Yeah.
6 to 8 got 38% of the vote. And so that means if you do some quick math, it means 91% of the people think we're going to get above 6 wins.
Right.
Between 6 wins and 11 wins. And then 12 and more and 5 or less are right now tied at 5% each.
Trolls.
Yeah. Who's a bigger troll? The people who think we're going to win 15 plus games, or the people who think we're going to win 2 games?
12 or more is absurd.
Yeah.
Given the strength of our schedule, 12 or more is absurd. I think you could make an argument if you wanted to be a little bit of a pessimist about it that we might be a 5-win. You could make a better argument for 5 wins than you could for 12 or more, I think.
Sure.
See, I actually voted right when you first posted it. I chose the 6 to 8 range.
That's what I would have chosen had I voted.
My reason for that is not because we're a bad team, but our schedule is going to be extremely tough.
It is
just how everything is planned out logistically. Playing Sunday night and then having to turn around and play Thanksgiving Day.
It's absurd.
Stuff like that. It's going to be really hard for a team to recover and play another game in time like that.
Well, we talked about the schedule with Rick a little bit, but I don't think we really gave too many details of it. Everybody just kind of talked off the top of their head about it. I think we ought to spend a moment or two, if you guys want, to go over the schedule a little bit in detail and
let's
just
at least get those
on
primetime games. Things on Sunday, people understand.
We'll do a season breakdown. Prediction type episode at some point soon.
I'm not a fan of predicting the schedule necessarily this early.
I don't mean predicting it. I just mean let's go over it a little bit and just tell everybody what there is coming up.
Yeah, do you have the highlights in front of you?
I've got
I've
got it on the Redskins website. Game 1 is Monday Night Football against the Steelers in Washington.
Let me tell you why I hate that. Remember when the Steelers came for a primetime game? What was that? 5 years ago.
We wore all burgundy.
Yeah,
and we got destroyed.
And the Steelers fans overtook the damn stadium.
Yeah, it sounded like a Steelers home game.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's going to be that again because we all know people in Pittsburgh, are
They're
more willing to come. Well, yeah, they don't have anything to do up there. They'll come down here for a Monday night game. We all have to work.
The fans are obnoxious. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like Eagles level obnoxious, but they're
drunker, but they're nicer.
They're obnoxious in numbers. Let's say that.
Yeah.
They're drunker but nicer. That's my feeling.
So that is the week 1 matchup. And then we've got a bunch of 1 p.m. Sunday games in a row.
Which is
Cowboys at Giants. Browns, week 4 is a highlight because that's the return of Robert Griffin.
Yeah.
And absent injury, he's probably still going to be playing that week,
so 50,
no matter what the Browns do in the draft. At Ravens, Baltimore's a tough game. Eagles. And then we have at the Lions. At the Bengals, that Bengals game is the London game. And so that is a 9:30 a.m. Eastern time start for television.
I'm kind of excited for that, just to kind of check it out.
I'm not excited.
Well, yeah, because you're a time zone away. So
no, I don't care about the time. That's not my point. The Redskins in those games historically, when you have the alternate starting times and the primetime games, we never do well.
That's true.
And here we've got the Bengals, which are a darn good team. Don't forget how good the Bengals were before Carson Palmer went out. That is a tough game.
You mean not Carson Palmer?
Andy Dalton. Yeah. They were one of the best teams in the NFL right up until the time when Andy Dalton went out.
Yeah. I think they were undefeated.
Now we get to play them. Not only do we have to play them, we have to play them in London.
Yeah.
I just think that's a really tough game.
Oh, it'll be I don't think we'll win that game, but I'm curious about it.
The bye week is. Oh, do you have more to say on that? I'm sorry.
No.
The bye week is week 9, so that's a perfect time to have a bye. Our next primetime game is Packers, 8:30 on Sunday night. So Sunday night football against the Packers in Washington. The Packers always tough. Primetime, always tough game.
Halloween game, basically.
This is, I'd say that week 8 through week 15 is the toughest stretch of the schedule by far. We've got at Bengals in London, Vikings at home. Vikings are a playoff team. Packers at home. We all know what they are. Cowboys in Dallas. At the Cardinals, Super Bowl team. At Eagles, which is always a tough game. And then we have the Panthers.
Yeah.
So that is a brutal schedule. The Panthers game is another one that is an 8:30 game. That's Monday Night Football.
Yep.
As a matter of fact. So you go from 3 road games against the Cowboys, the Cardinals, which could have been a Super Bowl team, the Eagles, and then you come home for Monday Night Football against the Panthers.
Yeah.
That's just as brutal as it could possibly get.
Schedule, it's the kind of schedule where you're going to go 6-2 in the first half, then 2-6 in the second half.
Realistically, yes.
Yeah. I mean,
tough.
If you're just talking about hard teams.
And by the way, then we have the Giants in week 17, which is never an easy game.
No.
Well, we get the Cowboys done relatively early compared to the past couple seasons.
Yeah, and by the way, the Cowboys game is Thanksgiving Day, folks. And so what happens is we've got the Packers on the Sunday night primetime game.
Yep,
and then we have
turn right around.
Yeah, and so there's less recovery time, and we're traveling to Dallas.
It's going to be brutal.
Which means they have to. If you look at schedules, NBA nerds have stuff they call schedule losses, and those are like the back-to-backs when you have to travel on the second game of the back-to-back. This Cowboy game is almost a schedule loss. I mean, if you come off a tough game against the Packers on Sunday Night Football, then you have to travel to Dallas for a Thursday afternoon game. That's just brutal.
It's the kind of situation where if the NFL allowed deeper rosters, I'd almost think like you'd be better off resting a couple guys, like deactivating them for the Green Bay game so that they're, you have 4 or 5 extra guys who are at least well rested for the Cowboys game so you have a shot.
They absolutely need to increase the roster size. It's ridiculous that those and you don't even have the full 53 playing in a game.
That's part of my
That's
issue.
what I would suggest. I mean, the owners are not going to increase the roster size.
No,
period.
which is
That's just
stupid.
not going to happen. It's because they don't want to have bigger payrolls. But there's no reason why they couldn't let more than 45 players dress for game day.
Right.
You know, I've never understood why they have that rule anyway. I don't know what the point is.
It's a strategy thing.
Yeah.
I guess, but I'd rather have more players. I think there's
would
more of a
too.
strategy and, you know,
Executing the X's and O's.
yes.
It's unnecessary.
Yeah, it's dated. I think
Yeah.
it's a strategy thing from a bygone era, is what it is.
Well, the problem with your theory, I don't disagree with you, Alex. I think that would help. But the problem is that's a Sunday night primetime game.
Yeah,
You know, you can't just play our second stringers in a game like that.
no, and ideally it's not your second stringers. It's you're giving your third string guy a rest so you can use him more the next week. And that's the
first
problem. You
string
don't
guy.
have enough depth to do
No.
what I'm saying anyway. So it's really a moot point. Yeah. Other thoughts on the schedule? One fun thing I did, and I use the term fun differently from most people, is I went to all 16 beat reporters from ESPN, because ESPN, they have their reporters right away do a win-loss prediction. And so I went to the reporters from the other teams and said, what do they think is going to happen in each week? And the results weren't pretty. We have a 7-game losing streak in their minds at one point.
It's possible.
It
That
is
streak
possible
of
with that second
7, it's
half.
not- yeah.
But it starts before that.
Well, it starts probably at the Bengals game, right?
I think it started a week or two before that even.
Okay.
Weirdly, the Panthers beat reporter said that he thinks we'll beat them.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
I don't know. Maybe he's like, I need an upset in here because I have.
Well, maybe if you look at the Panthers' schedule, that's kind of a schedule loss kind of game.
I didn't overanalyze the
Yeah.
other team's schedules. But basically, they have us going 6-10 is the sum of what I, added up. So, and that is possible. I've kind of looked at the schedule personally, and I think, as long as we're building a team, I'm okay with it. If we go 7-8 wins this year, it could happen.
My thumbnail kind of instant look at it, which is far too early because we haven't even been at the draft, and all the rest of it was sort of like 8-8-ish.
Yeah,
that range.
Anywhere in that range.
Yeah.
But if we're building a good team, I'm okay with that.
Well, let's be honest, too. We've earned the pessimism from the other team's beat reporters.
Yeah, I have no problem with... And,
Yeah.
I take it all with a grain of salt. It was just an exercise on my part.
Yeah. Well, what did the other beat writers say, Alex? What were the other results? I mean...
you mean like what were they... Actually,
you said you
writing?
looked at all 16. Yeah, I'm not specifics, but how did they look at us generally?
A lot of them, they're all focused on Kirk Cousins. Will he be as good as he was last year? That kind of thing.
And they thought what?
Generally, it seems to be a consensus that he'll be okay. I don't think anyone thinks he's going to turn into Tom Brady.
We just got to build around him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of knocks on our defense in those.
With
well
good
earned
reason.
knocks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well earned.
Yep. So that was my analysis of their analysis.
Your breakdown of their breakdown.
Exactly. But it's a different way to look at kind of, rather than just going through what do the fans think, what do our own reporters think, see what the opposing sides are all thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So, you guys got any other thoughts on the schedule?
No, I mean, I think we need to do, we'll do a detailed analysis and everything later in the off season.
Probably
more
once
when we know what our
preseason
roster
starts
is going to
rolling
be
around.
like.
After the draft, let's do a breakdown and prediction type thing.
I think the summary of it is the scheduling gods did us no favors this year.
No, but
The schedule could have been more spread out to eliminate that really super hard stretch, and it wasn't.
Yeah, when you are a team that gets into the playoffs, though, your schedule gods are always going to be a little harder anyway.
Well, yeah, but it's not that. I mean,
I know
teams
it's
are
not the
locked
teams.
in. It's just a big matrix, and sometimes teams get screwed. It's pretty tough to put a schedule together.
Oh yeah, and the fact that we're playing the NFC North and the AFC North in the same year does not make things
Doesn't
easier.
help. No.
So, well, I think that about does it for this episode. if people are still listening after this, and thank you.
You're the real
We
MVP.
went on way too long.
We did,
so.
but I really would want to just again thank Rick Snider. If you're not reading his stuff in the Express, on the Washington Post, on 106.7, then you don't know what you're doing as a fan.
Shame on you.
Yeah, he's the most senior beat writer I think we have in DC, and he's a brilliant one.
He's really good, folks.
Yeah.
Rick Snyder
knows his stuff.
Yeah, he really does.
So, you guys should definitely check him out and check us out, of course, at thehogsite.com, on Facebook, and you guys all know how to find us. And we will see you guys next week or so. I'm not really sure. I'll be on vacation. Bye-bye, everybody.
Something will happen.
And we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Bye.